Was that your first time you had hallucinations? No. On an unrelated note, more like the fake vacuuming simulator, am I right? Gran Turismo. It was a success on a PlayStation, selling 10 million copies and popularized the JDM machines to the mainstream. So of course the sequel was inevitable. Wait, it was co-developed with Arsis? Never heard of them. Here's Gran Turismo 2 by Playful Editional, released 2 years after the first one was released in Japan, which means I'm old! Having a 2-year schedule while doing a shitty game for the PS2 meant problems for the developer, most notably the described idea of a drag race mode. Early copies had a problem where completing the game doesn't give you 100%, but rather 98.2%. That's because they deleted the incomplete mode on the last minute and forgot to fix it for its intended holiday release, until the Platinum revisions. I'll talk more about the deleted content later on in the video, but it's safe to say that it was rather rushed. But the game can suck a rock either way, so stop saying that quote to me. Here's some useless trivia. You can play it on a Dreamcast if you have the appropriate disc to use first, and then swap it. It's one of 2 games that you can play using Dreamcast, and it's one of the few PS1 games where the disc can be scratched and snipped. In this case, the scent you get resembles of tire rubber. I only have the Platinum version. I must get my hands on that Japanese copy from that game store near the Arc of Triumph in Varna. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this one has 2 discs. Yeah, the game is too big to fit in one, so we got the arcade one and the simulation one. At least it's not Final Fantasy VIII. I'll start with the simulation disc, but I must talk about the intro, which is only on the arcade disc. Much like the first game, the intro is just replay footage, which looks a lot better compared to the actual game, coupled with CG animation and old racing films at the beginning. I just really love these types of intros, with the 4th one being my most favorite, 2nd being the 3rd one. And of course, a revised version of Moon Over the Castle plays in the background, the Japanese version. I just wish it has more color though. While I love the freaking heck out of it, it doesn't mean the international versions suck. In the American version, it uses the card against my favorite game. It is quite fantastic, at least the revised version. Wish I could play a portion on its own, but I don't want to hit with a copyright claim. I will play the faithless remix for the PAL version though. I was gonna say sucks, but I'll have to admit, after watching it for the first time in years, it kinda rocks. Reminds me of Are You Ready from Porsche Unleashed. So simulation mode is basically like the previous game, but better. Obviously there's more cars to buy, more events, more shops, and more license tests. Oh goody. Although you don't need to do them for a bit, since in some races, especially the one-make ones, they don't require it. Not only the car list got tripled or sextupled or whatever from the first game, it also features cars from more European and American brands like Peugeot, Ford, BMW, Lotus, Daihatsu, Volkswagen, and exotic ones like Vector, Venturi, Lister, and Tommy Kaira. At least it's exotic to me! There is no Ferraris, Lambos, or Porsches, but there is VUF, which are basically modified Porsches. As if I care much about those brands, they're pretty overrated. Don't fight me! There is also some regional differences. In the European version, if you select English, you get Vauxhall, but in another language, you get Opel, which is retained in the US version. Speaking of that version, if you want the stock NSXs, you have to get to the Acura dealership in Southtown. Wait a minute, in the US cover of the game, I noticed that the dials are from the McLaren F1! Gazanara, you hack fraud! Speaking of missing cars, this one has some of them removed, but you can get almost all of them by hacking the game. Cars like the Volkswagen Polo, CLK DTM, and the CLK GTR. Scrap race modified versions. Scrap versions of the Integra, although I would need more repeats of the same car. It is a lot more varied and a lot more relatable, at least for Europeans like me. Most of the cars are what you usually see on the streets, and it's quite charming to me. It also introduces GT1 class cars like the Elise GT1, Nissan R390, and the Toyota GT1, and more concepts like the Chrysler Phantom. But at least there's one important car added: Dodge Neon. Two, in fact! This game has a car variety similar to Forza, unlike in the next games, although that doesn't mean there's no repeats. There's like 2 Cougars, 4 Mustangs, and 2 Focuses in the Ford dealership. I mean, yeah, this one has slightly less horsepower than the other, but other than that, they're basically right the same. 4 Golfs? Really? Can't you just stick to one? And don't get me started on the Japanese cars. Aside from G3, so I'm rectifying that, this problem persists throughout the series. It is quite irritating. Even if there's like more than 1,000 cars in the game, most of them are just Civics, Miatas, and Skylines. Freaking Skylines! And despite having so much variety of international brands, you still have to buy a used Japanese car as your first ride. Still, there's a lot more Japanese cars to choose from, including the Toyota Prius, which, not gonna lie, has the biggest description I've ever seen. Like, holy crap! You can try buying a new one, but it's either gonna be a K car or the old Fiat 500, so screw it. As my first car, I picked the Nissan Pulsar GTI-R that I always wanted in GT1. Still, more than 600 cars, that's an amazing feat for the system. As for more series, they are no longer championships, but rather single races instead, some while limiting the horsepower. So that means you can race a 90s car into an 80s race, although it's like bringing a gun to a knife fight. You can do it, but it feels so wrong. There are a few times that it throws bullcrap at you, like the infamous Historic Car Cup, where sometimes it throws a freaking GT4 into the second race. Holy hell, doesn't that surpass the horsepower limit? For one-make races, there is only either 1 or 2 races per series. One for standard cars, and other for race-modified ones. The tracks are randomized, but it's always 2 laps and don't require a license, so yeah. Winning a race in the special events or endurance races earns you a car, unless it's a Sunday or Clubman Cup. These range from just stuff that you normally buy, to special cars like concepts, one-offs, and race cars. And a few have so much value, so I recommend doing those races to earn those cars so that you can sell it and repeat ad nauseum. For the main events, you have to complete the national races, then the regional ones until you reach the World Championship to finish the game. Although that would require doing a license, which I'll get there later. As for gameplay, its handling model is way similar to the previous game, right down to the controls. The game kind of tries to be simulation-y, or at least what the system allows it, but it's not too realistic. It's still very pick-up and play, despite the powerful rear-wheel drive cars being tail-happy. Still, as this game doesn't have visual damage or won't let you flip a car, it's very amusing when seeing cars bumping into each other like toy cars. Aside from that, they handle fine and even better when you upgrade them. I just don't like how the auto transmission sucks at downshifting. It doesn't know when to do it, which makes you go slow on the long gear, unless you let go of the gas button. Yeah, I prefer automatic over manual, shut up. I forgot to mention in my GT1 review that the physics in the arcade mode are very different from simulation, but it's too late to fix that. But I digress, it's almost the same. You race against 5 opponents in a set amount of laps, and you earn cash by finishing it. But a new addition to the series is rally races. Yeah, you can race on the dirt now, although it's just one-on-one rallycross event, which you're pitted against a ghost. At least there's a great selection of rally cars, especially those that you modified to look like them. Yeah, this is where the infamous Scooter first appears. All hail the Money Wing! The AI is a crapshoot. They're relentless towards everyone, basically. Try to slow down in an incoming corner? Tough luck! They'll beat you up and put you last, sucker! It's no big shock that the ramen betting screws you up. Most of the time, they stick with you like this Mario Kart 64 without items. And no matter how powerful your car is, they're still gonna make you their bitch. Even if their cars don't look as powerful as they are. Like, why would you break a Lotus Europa into a sports car race? Unlike the previous game, at least the European version, it comes with 2 booklets. One is just a manual, and the other is a strategy guide on how to drive better. You can't talk about Gran Turismo without talking the license tests, and holy hell, there's more that I have to do! There's now 6 license sets, which are divided into 10 tests. B license has the usual start and stop tests, but also the circle ones, that will reappear in the sequel. And you won't talk the rally test until IB, which also has the dreaded slalom tests. Some tests take place in short tracks tailor-made for them, like the Eau Rouge inspired one. And this introduces the S license, which replaces the A license from the first game, but retains the structure. one lifetime attacks. I don't like how most of the tests have running starts. I don't have much of a problem, it's just how they start. Instantaneous. Like, imagine if this is your first time doing one of these, and while you're waiting for it to load, you're like, maybe I should be sleeping much sooner than It catches you off guard and it persists in endurance races and some championship events. Completing a set not only opens up events, but also unlocks tracks for arcade mode, but if you complete it with all gold, you receive a prize car. Yeah, you won't see me do that. Even in the US version, which I'm playing right now, where the medal times are increased, I still have trouble getting at least silver. And I always wanted to know why do the first two IC tests have the D-Ride sponsored cars. Unless you're shit, this is the only time you drive them. I know D-Ride is a Japanese racing company, not to be confused with the anime company of the same name, but it's just weird to see them like that. Completing all the sets unlocks the event synthesizer, which randomizes the race depending on the difficulty, as the artist generates a championship. For the rest of the stuff, you still have machine tests and the infamously useless car wash feature. Yeah. But another new addition is the wheel shop, where you can change rims at the cost of $2,000. And that's the only visual part you can customize. Can't change the colors, can't put decals or vinyls, as you can only choose a predetermined design for a car, and usually just one per ride, and you still have to do all the weight reduction stage in order and pay a nifty price to do it. Why did I have to wait till 5? Another change is that now you can sell your car in your house, so no need to get to a dealership. But still, why would you do that? Oh yeah, I forgot. Despite the game having 600 cars, you can only sort of third of that, so if you're a virtual collector, anxiety will rise. Even in 6, the garage habit is still imposed for up to 500 cars, but since most of them are just repeats, why would you buy them all? In the arcade disc is the usual stuff from the first, except now the cars are divided into classes, and you can use your cars from your garage. Finally! Winning a race in at least normal unlocks a rental car of sorts, usually a rally car or an S-Class car, like a Clio V6, or a Cobra Daytona, or a Vector M12. Winning a race on hard unlocks the reverse value of that, except for Super Speedway, test course, and one of 2 real world tracks in the game, like Seca, in which even the AI have trouble crossing the corkscrew. Besides that, and the ones from the first game, there's a lot of new tracks that you can race, such as future staples of the series like Millfield Raceway, Apricot Hill, Seattle, Rome, Tahiti Maze, and Smoky Mountain. 2 ones that only appeared in this game, like the Tahiti Road, Grindelwald, Red Rock Speedway, short variants of Seattle and Rome, the arcade exclusive Moorland Park, and the really underused Rome Nights. Seriously, with the exception of the 1 make races and event synthesizer, it's only used once, and it's for an S license test. And that's just sad, but what did I expect for a rush job? Speaking of which, Smoky South looks really generic. It's nothing but a wide dirt road surrounded by forest with a couple of advert billboards as walls. I'm not joking, it just looks bland. Thankfully, it has been improved with a layout makeover and a name change to Swiss House for the sequel. Just like the missing cars, there were a few scrap tracks that were found on demo discs, such as the Indianapolis-like track and Monaco, which then debuted in the sequel as Côte d'Azur. For presentation, say with me, it's similar to the first game. There's warping, there's cars bumping which looks like they're becoming one, there's a lot of pop-up, it's a standard 3D PS1 game, and I love it! I especially love the pixel look of the textures as well as the night driving. So vibrant. What is being overlooked are the billboards that display a random company in every race. While a tad unnecessary, it's quite a nice touch, even though they don't appear in the one-make races for some reason. I quite like the aesthetic of the menus more, but I still find the ones in the previous game quite charming. I'm weird. As for sound, it's quite an improvement. Now most cars don't sound the same. Even though they don't sound like its actual cars, they are quite iconic, like the Skyline GTRs, the roaring sounds from the RX-7, the Camaro, and, well, those darn Miatas. And you can't forget about that turbo sucking. Hell, the engine sounds are retained for the sequel, as well as the menu sounds. For music, much like the previous game, it depends on which version you have. The Japanese version has an original soundtrack for races composed by Masahiro Ando, the guy behind Moon Over the Castle, and Isamu Ohira. You're currently hearing them throughout most of the review, and damn, what's with Japan and their great taste in jazz and fusion? For the international releases, it's all licensed stuff. The American version seems to have the best of the two, with the Garbage, Apollo 440, the Crystal Method, Stone Temple Pilots, and the best version of Dracula from Rob Zombie. Ah, fuck! For some reason, whenever I see the song list on the internet, I get these extra songs that I never even listened, like Bobby's Body Rock, Fear Factory, freaking Creed. Were they in the revised versions or am I just being crazy? As for the PAL version, it seems like it has the short end of the stick. Don't get me wrong, the remakes of Blame and Propelhead's Big Head are awesome. It's just the rest are quite lackluster, mostly being instrumental versions of great rock songs, and a remix version of F***ing in Heaven by Fatboy Slim. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say Ealing in Heaven. The latter is fine, but the others just don't sound right without the lyrics. You could try muting the bad words and I would be fine. And I hope you get used to listening to the same tracks because only one song plays per race, making endurance races a drag. I recommend turning off the music if you do. Thankfully, the menu songs are all the same in every version, aside from the replay feature, which depending on which version uses Big Dog, Cold Rock the Mic, or Blowing Away. They are redone versions of songs from the first game, and they're quite good, albeit a few ones sound a bit worse than in GT1, like the South City that I mentioned in my review of that. Still like it though. Why is the logo different in the US version? Why does this hurt my brain so much? Why I actually first played it after 1 and 3, Gran Turismo 2 is a really great game. Like 9 million plus copies can be wrong, right? Despite its flaws and rushed development, it's still a solid entry to the series. The amount of cars, challenging races, technical achievements. It's not for everyone since you start slow for a long time, which is notorious with these types of games, but I still recommend getting it. And with a new console on the horizon, it's still gonna go up from there. You're saying as if we're in the year 2000. Hell, you even look like you're from that time. Now you're just bringing that up?